You'll have a chance to answer your question, but you don't want to disrupt the whole meeting. Just be courteous, that's all. All you got to do is be courteous, that's all.
That Barack Obama is the first black president. He doesn't have to be. We don't want him to be the last. And there's only so far down the field he can push the ball. Maybe our expectations of him as the first are unreasonable.
Well, Tavis, that's ludicrous, as Mike Tyson might say.
Cornel West and Tavis Smiley go on Democracy Now! And they light a flame. Man, they came in with a blowtorch, especially Cornel West. So first of all, here's what he had to say about the president.
I mean, I'm glad there was not a right-wing takeover, but we end up with a Republican, a Rockefeller Republican in blackface with Barack Obama, so that our struggle in regard to poverty intensifies.
That's a pretty rough assessment of President Obama.
Oh, that's what we have. That's what we have.
Wow. A Rockefeller Republican in blackface. Okay, now that's super strong. First of all, Cornel West is one of the few people in America who could even dare to make that statement. Anybody else would be in a world of trouble, right? Now, second of all, is he right? Well, on the substance of President Obama not delivering for African Americans, he's almost unquestionably right. The Congressional Black Caucus has said that if he was a Republican president or just even a white president, they would be up in arms. They'd be marching on the White House. So in some ironic way, so the fact that President Obama is black allows him to ignore the plight of blacks more in this country. Now, look, I'll give you a general sense, and this is more about the poor and the middle class more than about race. But President Obama did home modification programs, and it was slated to be around $50 billion, which, by the way, is nothing because they gave the bankers through the Fed $7.7 trillion. But they didn't even do the modification program they said they would do on mortgages. In the end, for homeowners, they got a piddling $4 billion. Now, it's also connected to race in the sense that more African Americans and more Latinos had a greater percentage of their wealth tied up in their homes. So when their homes went under, a great percentage of their wealth also went under. So that's why they got disproportionately affected. They also got disproportionately affected in unemployment. And what has been the response so far? Not much. Even when we had a recovery, 93% of the recovery went to the top 1%. That was not during the Bush years. That was in 2010, during the Obama years. Now, that's the substance of it. But obviously, Cornel West said it in a very inflammatory way.
And because everybody, I was the first, so I wanted to be calm and reasonable in articulating my viewpoint. But I'm fired up right now. All right, and I'm going to just take half a minute more because I want to say this. First of all, he is the first black president, but we got to remember that. Jackie Robinson was the first. Jackie Robinson wasn't the best ball player. He was the best ball player suited to exist under the conditions that white folk would impose upon him. So I'm not suggesting that Mr. Obama is not a brilliant man. I knew him earlier than most people in this building, since 91. I was with Obama when most people who were black were with Hillary Clinton, when they were calling him Barack Obama. I knew who he was. I loved him. So I take second seat to no one. I love him. I love him walking down Air Force One. I love how he walks down and hollers at people. I love how he looks at black folk. I love how he looks at white folk. I love how he gives that Negro intimacy that is communicated telepathically. I love all of the symbolic gestures that are articulated from Obama. But at the end of the day, he's Jackie Robinson. I'm waiting for Willie Mays to come behind him because Willie's got a hell of a fan.
When Dr. Cornel West and Tavis Smiley went on Democracy Now!, they didn't just talk about President Obama, where they obviously had very strong words. They also talked about MSNBC hosts, particularly African Americans. Here's Brother Cornel on that.
I love Brother Mike Dyson, too. But we're living in a society where everybody's up for sale. Everything's up for sale. And he and Brother Sharpton and Sister Melissa and others, they have sold their souls for a mess of Obama pottage. And we invite them back to the black prophetic tradition after Obama leaves. But at the moment, they want insider access, and they want to tell those kind of lies. They want to turn their back to poor and working people. Well, and it's a sad thing to see them as apologists for the Obama administration in that way, given the kind of critical background that all of them have had at some point.
Damn, man, when he comes serious, man. He comes with a 2x4. So is he right? Well, remember what Al Sharpton said on 60 Minutes when talking to Leslie Stahl, and what he told her during that report as well. Here, let's watch.
Sharpton told us that having a black president is a challenge. If he finds fault with Mr. Obama, he's aiding those who want to destroy him. So he's decided not to criticize the president about anything, even black unemployment that's twice the national rate. Have you told other blacks not to criticize him publicly?
What I've told them is to be genuine about it. There are some blacks that said, he needs to go with a black agenda. He needs to do this. He said when he was running, he wasn't going to do that. Duh, surprise?
But just because he didn't campaign on improving unemployment in black areas, why aren't you out there saying we need more done?
What I don't want to see is because he is black that we act like he's not the real president. He ought to be leading the black cause or the labor cause. He's the president.
Man, again, on the language of Dr. West, I have no comment. It's strong language. Everybody gets to make their point in the way that they want to make it. You might have said it in other ways. I might have said it in other ways. And I've said very harsh things as well, right, in my own way. But on the substance of Dr. West on this issue, after you watch that, it's hard to argue. First of all, he told 60 Minutes that he will not criticize the president about anything. Well, it doesn't get more in the tank for somebody than that. It's literally the most sellout thing you can say. I mean, if you're his campaign spokesperson, okay, that's fine. That's your job, right? But if you're supposed to be in the media and you're supposed to have some degree of objectivity, doesn't mean that you don't have an ideology or different ideas that you want to push. We do too. But it's a different thing to be partisan, to say, whether I personally agree or disagree, I'm going to lie to my audience. And I'm not going to tell them that. I'm just going to say whatever the president says is right, when I don't even believe that. That's what it means to not criticize him no matter what. And then did you hear that part where he said, well, he already told you he wasn't going to do anything for blacks. So duh. Well, duh. That's why Cornel West is criticizing him and you. And Michael Eric Dyson, also on MSNBC as a contributor. Now listen to what he told Democracy Now! About President Obama.
The reality is that Obama is as progressive a figure who has the chance of being elected in America. The reality is that he's the most progressive president, as Gary Dorian, an American leftist who teaches at Union Theological Seminary, argues, since FDR.
As a backward system has a way of presenting history as if history is made by one man, one great woman. And that this great man, this great woman comes along and directs the dumb masses who follow them for whatever reasons, and they light up the way to show the people how to go in the darkness. So whenever you study, for example, the American Revolution, you say George Washington, and that means you know everything. You say Abraham Lincoln. Even in recent years of the struggles here, you could say Martin Luther King, you see. The attempt is to make it appear as if history is made indeed by these great person. And of course, with the concession of Martin Luther King, usually our history is not made by us, but really made by one great person outside of our race, usually a great white man. Thus, in the Civil War, we did absolutely nothing. It was Abraham Lincoln. As a matter of fact, recently, some lot of garbage is written in books by people who call themselves historians, making it appear as if we have to thank Lyndon Baines Johnson for the advancement because he signed the Civil Rights Bill. Of course he signed it. But while he was signing it, we were in the streets burning the country down. You better hurry up and sign it. Burn the whole country down. Do it quick. But if you're not careful, you will thank Lyndon Baines Johnson.
People said when the Kennedys were killed, pardon me, when Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, they said, well, where are our leaders? And I used to say all the time, we had lots of leaders. If you're a super of a building with 6 apartments and people listen to you, then you too are a leader. So not every leader has great charisma and will be nationally known or even known citywide. So in that sense, we have many leaders. I'd like to believe that a leader, first of all, by definition, must have followers. If nobody's following you, you can't be a leader. Those persons who claim to be leaders, who see which way the people are going and run and get ahead of them and say, let me lead my followers, that person perhaps isn't really the leader that he claims or she claims to be. But we have many very fine leaders in lots of disciplines, lots of different areas of endeavor, and it's important. And we ought appreciate the leaders we do have. There are lots of them that are really good. Some will get more projection than others, of course. And even Martin Luther King, keep in mind that when they came to him and said, we need you to lead the Montgomery bus boycott, and he did, and he rose to the occasion, and as they say, the rest is history. But there were others.
Because you are not as deep into politics as I am. Okay, great. I think that there is something that you need to know. Some members of the Republican Party are not the only ones wanting President Obama to fail. Tavis Smiley and Cornel West are doing a so-called poverty bus tour under the guise of highlighting that issue, because we all know poverty did not exist before January 20th, 2009. However, is the disguise of it all. He's not doing for Black America what he should be doing. But let me help everybody to something right here and understand this, and this is in layman terms. You are so wrong when you make that statement. But he is the president of the United States. He is not the president of the hood.
Of black people.
He is the president of the United States.
Everybody.
But if you look at what he's pushing, no one could benefit greater than our community. Health care. Who is lacking in health care overwhelmingly than anybody else? Who is that? Who is lacking in education overwhelmingly than anybody else? And who do you know could stand a tax break above anybody else? So all you got to do is fit yourself into the equation, and you'll see that he's doing everything he can. But it's not for us. It's for the American people.
Yes.
And the moment we quit saying us, gimme, 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 and just plug yourself into the already existing system, which ain't gonna change just cause you want it to, then we can move on with this thing. The man is doing a great job. So
how you gonna say you just the president of black folk? No, Sherlock. We didn't know that. Of course we knew that. I'm the very person who said he got to holler at white folk and wink at us. So don't tell me that I didn't understand that you had to engage in code switching, which is the predicate for acceptance in the larger circle of white supremacist logic, so that you could then get in with a black voice. But don't get up in there and become who you said you were against to begin with. Your point is that, and I'm not talking about black versus white, I'm talking about right versus wrong. So my point is, you are the president of everybody, which includes me. I am from America too. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. That's in America. New Jersey ain't got to be New York to be part of America. I ain't got to be white to be part of America. Latinos asking them for something and they got something. Gay and lesbian said don't ask, don't tell, changed it. Jewish brothers and sisters said deal with Israel, deal with it. All of those are specific entities. Why is it when it comes to Negroes? Why is it when it comes to black folk? All of a sudden we are persona non grata. I tell you, Mr. Obama, to deal with the black agenda is what every president before you had to do. How you gonna be any different? Abraham Lincoln had to deal with race. George Washington had to deal with race. LBJ had to deal with race. How come you the first president that ain't got to deal with race? It wasn't a black president who passed the Civil Rights Bill. It wasn't a black president who passed the Voting Rights Act. It wasn't a black president who passed the Fair Housing Act. It wasn't a black president who dealt with fair housing. It wasn't a black president who dealt with affirmative action. You gonna be like every other president, deal with race. If you want to be great, deal with the Negro question. Now let me say this. How you gonna say this? One size does not fit all. When you go to the hospital, some people taking aspirin for hangnails. Some people taking insulin for diabetes. And some people taking chemotherapy for cancer. Ain't no such thing as a rising tide lifts all boats. You got to target your particular reality and tailor the public policy. And let me say this. First of all, everybody ain't got no boat. So you need to make some funds available for boat making. Then when we get the boats, some people got them little dinghies out there, and some people got some cruise liners. And the folk with the cruise liners don't give a damn what you do anyway. So the rising tide is not going to benefit us because we're being displaced by those big cruises. How you going to deny Negroes money, 17% almost unemployment, 9% with white folk, 12% with Latinos, and tell me it's all equal? I'm telling you this. You bailed out the notorious AIG. You bailed them out. You bailed out General Motors, but you can't bail out African-American people who put together dimes and nickels and had parties for you to make sure that you could get up in the White House. And now when you get there, you can't have amnesia. Let me say this.
In the face of the numerous attacks that are made against the African community or the black community by the same U.S. government that you aspire to lead, and we're talking about attacks like the subprime mortgage that you spoke of, that wasn't just a general, ambiguous kind of phenomenon, but a phenomenon that targeted the African community and Latino community. Attacks like the killing of Sean Bell by the New York Police Department and Javon Dawson right here in St. Petersburg by the St. Pete Police, and the Gina 6 and Hurricane Katrina, and the list goes on. In the face of all these attacks that are clearly being made on the African community, why is it that you have not had the ability to not one time speak to the interests and even speak on behalf of the oppressed and exploited African community or black community in this country?
All right. Well, I guess. Hold on a second, everybody. I want everybody to be respectful. That's why we're having a town hall meeting. This democracy at work. And he asked a legitimate question, so I want to give him an answer. I think you're misinformed about when you say not one time. Every issue that you've spoken about, I actually did speak out on. When it came to, hold on. I'm going to go through the very specific examples. I've been talking about predatory lending for the last 2 years in the United States Senate and worked to pass legislation to prevent it when I was in the state legislature. I have repeatedly said that many of the predatory loans that were made in the mortgage system did target African American and Latino communities. I've said that repeatedly. Number two, Gina 6. I was the first candidate to get out there and say, this is wrong, there's an injustice that's been done, and we need to change it. That's number two. When Sean Bell got shot, I put out a statement immediately saying, this is a problem. So I'm sorry, wait, don't start, hold on, don't start, shouting back. I'm just answering your question. On each of these issues, I have spoken out. Now, I may not have spoken out the way you would have wanted me to speak out, which is fine, because I understand, but look, which is fine. Well, hold on a second. Remember, I've got other people, so I'm just trying to answer your question. So what I'm saying is, here's what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that on each of these issues that you mentioned, I have spoken out, and I've spoken out forcefully. And listen, I was a civil rights lawyer. I passed. Hold on a second. Hold on. I passed the first racial profiling legislation in Illinois. I passed some of the toughest death penalty reform legislation in Illinois. So these are issues I've worked on for decades. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to always satisfy the way you guys want these issues framed, and I understand it. Which gives you the option of voting for somebody else. It gives you the option to run for office yourself. But those are all options. But But the one thing that I think is important, is that, you know, we're respectful towards each other. And what is true is, I believe that the only way we're going to solve our problems in this country, the only way that we're going to solve our problems in this country is if all of us come together, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, young, old, disabled, gay, straight. That, I think, has got to be our agenda. All right? Okay.